Open your Bibles to Genesis 6. I'll be there in a few moments. I'm going to read something to you first. As we get back to Azazel, let me get my books ready. Azazel. Some of this will be review, and then we'll get into some other things about Azazel. What is the true meaning of the word Azazel used in Leviticus 16? These questions have caused a lot of disagreements among theologians. Generally, scholars have advanced 4 different explanations for the etymology and meaning of Azazel. The Theological Workbook of the Old Testament outlines these 4 theories. This word appears 4 times in the Old Testament, all in Leviticus 16, in 8, 10, and 26 verses, where the ritual for the Day of Atonement is described. After the priest has made atonement for himself and his house, he is to take 2 goats on behalf of Israel. One is to be the sacrifice to the Lord. The other is to be the scapegoat, the goat for Azazel. In all 4 appearances of this word, it has the preposition to, to, attached to it. This word has been variously understood and translated. The versions such as the Septuagint, Symmachus, the Vulgate have understood it to stand for the goat that departs, considering to be derived of the 2 Hebrew words ez for goat and azel, turn, which means turn off, according to them. By associating it with the Arabic word azala, which means banish or remove, it has been rendered for entire removal. The rabbinic interpretation is generally considered this word to designate the place to which the goat was sent, a desert, a solitary place, or the height which the goat was thrown, and which I already pointed out that became a tradition much later in their history, to throw the goat off backwards from a cliff into the valley below to certain death. The final responsibility is to regard this word as designating a personal being so as to balance the Lord, which I don't agree with. In this way, Azazel could be an evil spirit, standing logically against the Lord. Regarding the 4 possibilities of the word, the New International Dictionary of the Old Testament Theology says of Azazel, this word appears 4 times in the prescriptions governing the Day of Atonement. Its undermined origin and limited use in the Old Testament result in much speculation and uncertainty with regard to its precise and original meaning. 4 major explanations have been suggested for the word. The 4th position suggests that Azazel is a reference to a desert demon. He's not a demon. I'm telling you right now, he's a high-ranking angel. And many of you, when I read your messages, have speculated that Azazel and Satan, and I told you, back when I started this, I'm not saying he is or isn't Satan. I was not going to clarify that at that time. Tonight I am. And I'll spend months proving why I believe Azazel is not Satan. And just about every message that one made make a comment on Azazel and Satan, most of you have come to the conclusion, and I don't know how you get to this conclusion. Not using the scriptures you came to that conclusion. It was obvious to me by reading your messages. And I'll lay out the scriptures to show you why you can't come to that conclusion. But Azazel is not a demon. He's a high-ranking angel. And number two, he is not Satan. And Satan is not Azazel. The fourth position suggests that Azazel is a reference to a desert demon. No, it's not. It's in support of this position is the book of Enoch, which uses this name for a chief demon. No, it does not. It never says in the pure versions, the pure translation, that Azazel was a demon. But if you just read through this material and you don't verify any of your material and you take somebody's word for it without checking any references or any other historical data or any biblical data, you're going to take the word for it. And I can see why, because there's been things written about how Azazel is Satan or Satan is Azazel. They give you a couple explanations that might sound like they know what they're talking about, and then you take that as fact. In support of this position is the book of Enoch, which uses the name for a chief demon. The Old Testament also associates the appearance of goats with demons. Furthermore, the desert or wilderness is frequently described by both the Old Testament and New Testament the abode of evil spirits. Matthew, Luke, Revelation, you'll find examples of that. This interpretation also balances the parallel expression for the Lord and makes sense of the remaining grammatical expressions. Bring me some water, please. The fourth position makes the most grammatical sense. Regarding the use of Azazel, Leviticus 16, the Abingdon Bible Commentary states, the translation dismissal in the Revised Version or removal is inadmissible, being based on false etymology while the word meant is unknown, but it should be retained as the proper name of a wilderness demon. Don't agree with that either. Just don't. And the reason why I don't agree with most of these commentaries is because they don't understand what a demon is. And I'll repeat, a demon is not a fallen angel. Angels are not demons, and demons are not angels. I've preached on this before. And by the way, if you're just tuning in for the first time, I really feel for you. Because there's been years of teaching that you've missed that led to these points. Take advantage of the archives, both the video and the written sermons, and dig in. There's plenty there to study. But demons are not fallen angels. Demons are the offspring between the fallen angels and mankind, or woman from mankind, if you want to call it that way. And their children, which then died, their spirits, most, I believe, are roaming today's world. Some already locked up in the abyss or the bottomless pit. And the demons that even possessed the Gadarene boy begged Jesus not to cast them into the bottomless pit, along with other fallen angels and demons. Demons are offsprings, what we call the giants. Now, I don't want to bog down on that because I want to continue. What the word meant is unknown, but it should be retained as the proper name of a wilderness demon. No, it should not. In his Bible dictionary, Hastings states, Azazel must have been such an evil spirit, sufficiently distinguished from the rest, in popular imagination to receive a special name, and no doubt invested with attributes which, though unknown to us, were perfectly familiar to those of whom the ceremonial of Leviticus 16 was first designed. That's a whole lot of nothing right there, friend. And that was from the dictionary of the Bible. A whole lot of nothing. It really doesn't tell you much. In 1 Chronicles 5:8, the father of Bela, a Reubenite, is named as Azazel, A-Z-A-Z, which means strong. This name comes from the Hebrew word Azazel, which means to be strong. Regarding this word, the T-O-W-O-T says the verb Azazel can be predicated of both God and men. When used of men, this word carries the idea of prevailing as in war or structure, or as being belligerent, particularly to God. The Sonsiso Kumash says that Azazel is a compound of Azaz, to be strong, and El, mighty. The Hebrew word El is often translated as God in the Old Testament. It is frequently used in combination with other words in proper names. Therefore, as a proper name, Azazel could possibly mean strong one of God. Or negatively, it could imply belligerent toward God. I could accept those translations and definitions better than the previous ones, especially the ones that I gave you in the previous teachings. There's one that had might with God, or a mighty one of God. This was a high-ranking angel, Azazel, who became belligerent. And if you read all the other literature that's available, I'm not talking about modern authors, I'm talking about literature that dates back thousands of years in some cases. They present a different story. They present that Azazel and other angels were created about the same time as Adam was. And the full purpose of their creation, different from Adam, Adam was unique, just like those angels that were created were unique. But those angels, because Adam was made in the image of God, which according to the stories that have been passed on through the millenniums, angels weren't made in the image of God. They were created by God, not only to serve God, but also to serve Adam and his offsprings. Whether you want to believe that or not, that's up to you. I think there's some validity in the story. And because they didn't want to serve Adam, they rebelled. They rebelled. So I believe Satan was created to serve Adam. I necessarily don't believe that. But Satan, who wanted to be like God and have that same position and power and be worshipped like the God, which eventually led to his fall, used that opportunity to see other fallen angels to be their ringleader and do most of the work that we define as evil throughout the ages. I'm telling you right now, you'll see the references to Satan, especially in the New Testament, as the mastermind. but he's having his foot soldiers doing most of the work. Satan doesn't want to be exposed as much as you think he does. He wants to lurk behind the scenes, almost like the puppeteer pulling the strings, but all you see is the puppet. You don't see who's pulling the strings. That's how Satan operates. And he's found willing candidates in fallen angels and demon spirits from the giants to do his bidding. But I'm getting off track. What I'm trying to accomplish tonight. Let me continue. The book of Enoch, also called First Enoch, gives us quite a bit of information about a renegade angel named Azazel. Regarding the origin of the book of Enoch, the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia says, First Enoch is obviously a composite work consisting of at least 5 different parts. And I've told you this before, especially when I was preaching on the 70 shepherds. It's toward the end of the book of Enoch where we find that story. And the latter parts of the book of Enoch, or First Enoch, I'm not convinced. I don't rule it out, but I'm not convinced they were a part of any original work. It might have been added later. I don't discount it. I'm just not sure. I have more confidence in the first third of the book than I do the rest of the book, to tell you the truth. Maybe half, but at least the first third. Why? Because I could verify it with the biblical scriptures and make the connection. That's the key marker in my studies. Can I make a connection? If I can't, then it's going to be speculation, as I said in that 70 shepherds teaching. Only time will prove it out, whether it's accurate or not. First Enoch is obviously a composite work consisting of at least 5 different parts. Since Aramaic fragments of the 10 different manuscripts representing 4 parts of the book have been found in the Qumran caves, it is quite certain that the book in its several parts was originally written in Aramaic and then translated into Greek at an earlier date. Considerable fragments of the Greek version has been found. The Greek version was translated into Ethiopic. In 1773, a traveler, James Bruce, brought these manuscripts in Ethiopic from Abyssinia to Britain. We now possess 29 manuscripts, but all of them more or less corrupt. We have no materials to trace the history of the 5 parts of Enoch as individual books or as a collection. Few objective criteria exist by which to date the production of these books in their collection. Most scholars believe they were written between 165 and 64 BC. I think they were written sooner than that, or later than that. But conclusions vary considerably. Furthermore, Ehrman's Bible Dictionary says that the book of Enoch, portions of the work were well known in Christian circles. First Enoch 1:9, remember the beginning of the book, is quoted explicitly in the Epistle of Jude. The work accepted as scripture in various early Christian writings, used by Clement of Alexandria and Irenaeus. Clearly, the book of Enoch was widely known and used by early believers. It's apparent that Jude considered his quote from Enoch to be genuine. Because the present version has suffered corruption while coming down to us through the centuries, it is now not considered to be Holy Scripture. However, it's reasonable to assume that the original text did faithfully record the words of Enoch. Since Jude quotes from the book of Enoch, we can also do so if we are careful to ensure that what is used does not contradict or conflict with the Bible. By combining what we are told about Azazel in the book of Enoch with what the Bible reveals, we could come to better understanding the ceremony performed on the Day of the Atonement and also end time prophecies. Now, okay, let's see if we can make the connection. The biblical scriptures with the book of Enoch, and see if we can find some verifying thoughts and piece this story together. Genesis 6:1. And it came to pass, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born unto them, the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not always strive with man, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall he be 120 years. There were giants, verse 4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that. When the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty men, which were of old men of renown. Now, that's Genesis 6, 1 through 4. Now, the same event is found, but I think in much greater detail, in the book of Enoch. Now, I'm going to reading from R.H. Charles' translation of the book of Enoch. I go back and forth with Richard Lawrence and R.H. Charles for the most part in my studies in the book of Enoch, or First Enoch. Now, the Charles version reads, And it came to pass, this is Enoch, if you have a Charles version, chapter 6, verse 1. You can write that down and then read it again yourselves in your own spare time. And it came to pass, when the children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them, and said one to another, Come, let us choose us wives from among the children of men. And begat us children. And Samjaza, or Jaza, who was their leader. Interesting. It doesn't say Azazel was their leader. It doesn't even say Satan at this point was their leader. And Samjaza, who was their leader, said unto them, I fear ye will not indeed agree to this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin. And they all answered him and said, Let us all swear an oath, and all bind ourselves by mutual agreement not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing. Then swear they all together and bound themselves upon it. And they were in all 200, who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon. And just southeast of that, by the way, is Gilgal-Raphaim. Remember that? I believe where the bottomless pit is located. So they descended upon the summit of Mount Hermon, and they call it Mount Hermon, because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it. And these are the names of their leader. And he gives a bunch of names of their leaders. And these are the chief of tens. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each for himself one. And they began to go in unto them, and to defy themselves with them. These are what Genesis 6:1, or 6:2 actually, says are the sons of God. Angels. And they're identified as angels, not the sons of God, but as angels in the book of Enoch, which I just read to you. Now, this was a very common, accepted understanding of the Genesis story of the scriptures, that they were angels that rebelled, that lusted after the woman on this planet, and decided to sin against God and take on themselves wives and bear themselves children. There's an accepted understanding of this scripture until at least 2 centuries after Jesus. 2 centuries. So up to 2 centuries after Jesus' time on this planet, this was accepted knowledge and understanding of the events. But things started to change. When you look at the list, whether you have a Charles or a Lawrence edition, it gives you the list of these names of these angels. And if you look at the list of these angels, like I already told you earlier, these angelic chiefs from above, Azazel is not in any of these lists. When you're reading quickly through the book of Enoch, you just assume Azazel was part of that 200 coming down that lusted after the beautiful woman that were roaming this planet. Sorry. He's not that and part of that original list in either translation. In other translations also. He's not just not a part of it. Azazel is not part of the list. Now, an angel named Samjaza identifies him in the book of Enoch as the leader of this band of angels that came down this earth and lusted after woman. Now, when you read through the scriptures and through the book of Enoch, I just read you about 7 verses out of the book of Enoch. Charles' version, starting chapter 6, verse 1 down to verse 7. Azazel is not on that list. A name similar to that, but not the same name, but Azazel is not part of that list, or Azazel. He's mentioned twice, 2 different names, Azazel and Azazel, in the Enoch scripture. They're one of the same beings. Now, when you look at this list, Azazel only appears after this small band of angels rebellion. Now I'm going to read you Enoch chapter 8, verse 1, Charles edition. And Azazel taught man to make swords, and knives and shields and breastplates, and made known to them the metals of the earth and the art of working them. Azazel's main mission was to teach man how to war against each other. And bracelets and ornaments, and the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids, and all kinds of costly stones, and all coloring tinctures. And there arose much godlessness, and they committed fornication, and they were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. Although Azazel is not on the initial list among these angels, these 200 angels that rebelled and came down to earth to mate with human beings, woman, in some literature, it went beyond women, even mating with different types of animals. But that's not part of what I'm trying to relate to you tonight. And when these 200 angels came on the scene, and they start mating with the woman, then Azazel comes on the scene. Not listed among the 200, but a key player nonetheless. And he arrives on the scene, I believe was already here. But I'll get to that. And where was he if he was already here? I'll get to that too. Now, later in the 54th chapter in the book of Enoch, I'll read it to you. Azazel is shown to be now a ruler of this band of 200 angels. He becomes a ruler of these rebellious angels. Now, Azazel, as I said, is a high-ranking evil angel who I believe decided to take advantage of this lawlessness environment that these rebellious band of angels created before the flood, which only wreaked havoc on humanity, Adam-like beings. As I read to you, Azazel was the instrument of teaching man how to war, how to make weapons, the art of warfare, and God knows what else. And God became very angry, and he was displeased. And he delivers through his messengers a very strong punishment against Azazel's sins. In Enoch chapter 10, same translation I've been reading from, it reads, "Then said the Most High, the Holy and Great One, spake, and sent Uriel, a good angel, to the son of Lamech, and said to him, Go to Noah and tell him my name. Tell him my name. Hide thyself and reveal to him the end that is approaching, that the whole earth will be destroyed, and a deluge is about to come upon the whole earth, and will destroy all that is on it. And now instruct him that he may escape, and his seed may be preserved for all the generations of the world." This is, once again, to be verified that Noah did receive instructions from God to create an ark, or to build an ark, receiving the instruction plans so his family could be preserved, because they were a righteous family, right in the eyes of God. Noah kept preaching the message, get right with God, but it fell on deaf ears for decades. And the time came, they went in the ark, and the waters from above, but the waters from below also broke loose, and we get the flood story. Now, and again the Lord said to Raphael, a different angel, "Bind Azazel hand and foot, and cast him into the darkness, and cover his face that he may not see light. And on the day of the great judgment he shall be cast into the fire. The whole earth has been corrupted through the works that were taught by Azazel. To him inscribe all sin." Well, I thought it was to Satan. Interesting point, isn't it? I can hear your gears turning in your mind. The whole earth has been corrupted. Great judgment he shall be cast in the fire. And through the works that were taught by Azazel, to him ascribe all sin. Well, I just read to you that Azazel's punishment was to be bound and cast into an opening made in the desert by Raphael and sealed up there, covered by rough and jagged stones. He'd be thrown into this darkness, friend. He would remain in this place until a set time and until his judgment, when he would then be cast eventually into the lake of fire. Now, when you read through the book of Enoch, you get a better idea what this punishment is like. And you get a little bit more information about this place where Azazel and these other angels were imprisoned. In Enoch chapter 54, Charles' translation, once again, R.H. Charles, verse 3, we'll start there. It reads, "And there my eyes saw how they made these their instruments, irons change of immeasurable weight. And I asked the angel of peace who went with me, saying, For whom are these chains being prepared? And he said unto me, These are being prepared for the host of Azazel, so they may take them and cast them into the abyss of complete condemnation. And they shall cover their jaws with rough stones, as the Lord of spirits commanded. And Michael, and Gabriel, and Raphael, and Panuel shall take hold of them on that great day, and cast them on that day into the burning furnace. That the Lord of spirits may take vengeance on them for all their unrighteousness in becoming subject to Satan, and leading astray those who dwell on the earth. Now, did you catch that last part of that verse? Verse 6. Cast them on that day into the burning furnace, that the Lord of spirits may take vengeance on them for their unrighteousness in becoming subject to Satan and leading astray those who dwell on earth. Let me find another translation here. See if I can find it quick enough. If I can't, I won't. But let me see if I can find it. Bear with me. I'm trying to see if I can locate it. If not, I won't lose more time looking for it, but here it is. This is now the Richard Lawrence translation. In chapter 53, in a Charles translation, it's chapter 54. In the Lawrence translation, it's chapter 53. Verse 4. Then I inquired of the angel of peace who proceeded with me, saying, for whom are these fetters and instruments prepared? He replied, these are prepared for the host of Azazel, that they may be delivered over and judged to the lowest condemnation, and that their angels may be overwhelmed with hurled stones, as the Lord of spirits hath commanded. Michael and Gabriel and Raphael and Panuel shall be strengthened in that day, and shall then cast them into the furnace of blazing fire, that the Lord of spirits may be avenged of them for their crimes, because they became ministers of Satan, and seduced those who dwelled upon the earth. Once again, Satan's lurking behind the scenes, casting his influences on gullible fallen angels to do his bidding. Reminds you of the garden story, doesn't it? The book of Enoch, in both translations, shows Azazel and his clan were bound in chains, and then eventually we cast into a furnace of fire, but until then cast into abyss or a bottomless pit, and covered with these rough, jagged stones or rocks. And then be thrown into this prison, just like Azazel and other scriptures of other verses in the book of Enoch was. Now, the logical conclusion of this, that this abyss is the same place which Azazel was earlier cast. Such as in Enoch 10, Azazel, which all sin was ascribed to him, was cast in this bottomless pit. And now we have a later account of what's going to happen to those other fallen angels that also came under the influence of Azazel. My personal belief, Azazel was getting his marching orders behind the scenes from Satan. And it's not the first time. What do you mean by that? We'll get to that. Not this evening, but we'll get to that. The point I wanted to make tonight, with all the stuff that I read to you, is Azazel and Satan are two different evil beings. Satan being the chief leader, the highest ranking angel of all these evil angels. But Azazel was no slouch. He pulled rank on other angels when they eventually rebelled also. And these are the only ones we know about. Could there be more? Possibly. We know there's a host of demons, the offsprings of the giants. Now, you might be asking yourself, well, I read that they are bound, in some cases, forever and ever. What the heck does that mean? I'm going to get to that. And what the correct translation should be. You see that a lot in the Hebrew scriptures also. The scriptures of the Bible, both Old and New Testament, this forever and forever concept. What does that mean? And how does it tie in to what I'm trying to relate to you about these evil beings? And just not them, by the way. Now I'm really trying to confuse you, right? Or dangle you. Now I'll get to all these subject matters, but tonight I wanted to point out that the sons of God were these fallen angels in Genesis 6. In Enoch, they're fallen angels. And some of them are listed as chief of angels that rebelled because they wanted to lust after woman of this planet and bear their own offspring. Azazel, I believe, receiving his marching orders from Satan, even though I can't prove that in scriptures just yet, became then their ringleader. And then he influenced the rest of these angels to rebel even further. And of course, Azazel even took it further than that. And he's the one that really kick-started the program where man hated man, to the point where man became a warring type of people, which led to their own destruction. And if they couldn't do it fast enough, the giants assisted in that process and were destroying mankind at an alarming rate. And God eventually had enough. And he destroyed the then world with a flood, which we know now through the scriptures, it was Noah's flood, as I said, from waters from above and from the deep. And it wiped out the evil beings, not the angels, either before or just right after the flood or during the flood. They were in prison. They were thrown into the abyss or the bottomless pit along with Azazel, and they stayed there for a period of time. Are they still there today? We'll see. But to answer some of your questions and also your statements, Azazel and Satan are two different evil beings. One higher ranking angel than another. Remember, Satan was a cherubim. What was Azazel then? What was Azazel, if not a cherubim? Well, I'll get to that. But now, if you're interested, I want to hear from you. as we continue our biblical detective work in trying to figure out what these evil beings were, what became of them, what would happen with them before they're thrown into that fiery furnace as Enoch states, or the lake of fire as the New Testament states. I'll get to that. Are you interested? If you are, play a song, let me know.